For me, open government is giving government the best chance to be successful. Part of the thing that I do running for mayor is I say I want people to love their city government like they love their city. And there's a disconnect sometimes. And obviously we're going to ask you to do things like jury service, we're going to ask you to pay property taxes if you own, parking tickets, just a bunch of things that kind of really test your faith and make you cranky at times. But if we do a good job of delivering the services that we're entrusted to provide, I think we keep the public's faith. And I think that having dynamism, which technology allows us to do, and whether it's 311 or using 511, which is a lot cheaper, and it's great. Like if I'm standing and waiting for the 24 and I don't have next bus there, and I can just punch in a 511 and just bark out 4 commands and know when the next bus is coming, that's a great thing. But if things aren't working, the bus is filthy, it's buck wild on the bus and it looks like the psych ward in general, those are things that we also ought to know in a more real-time basis. And I'm not a big tweeter. Like I haven't hit my stride on tweeting yet because tweeting is to me, I haven't gotten to the point where it's as interactive a relationship. And I know that some people can follow trends and pick up things, but I don't know. I like to engage and I love people. I have an insatiable appetite for people, the stories they tell, the motivations they have, the things that bug them, the ideas that they have. And so it's, I don't want to be as trite. I don't know that we could have or want to have government by Facebook, but I do my own Facebook. You know, you can look and sometimes there's a picture of me from Underground SF and that's the guy I'm trying to talk to that week and it's pretty funny and I have to like detag it by the next week and go, don't want that on there. But I'm just me. I'm just a real basic person. And obviously any campaign is about growing. It is painful to go through a campaign, from the stamina you have to have, the criticism you have to take, the people that reject you, I say campaigns are about missed opportunities sometimes, you know, just the things that you physically and humanly can't get done on every basis. But by the end of the road, you hopefully are a stronger person, you're more in touch with what the public feels, and you'll be better at the job that you want to do. And I think that respecting that you set the standard, you are the leader of this city, and if you operate in an open and transparent basis, that's what matters. Any political leader is going to be viewed as transactional by some, but the extent to which that you risk your political capital, you risk the aura around you to enable people to really understand the ups and downs and the ins and outs, I think it's a great thing because people care about this city. It is the biggest commodity we have. The human capital of people who live in this city and work for this city, I think it's boundless. And I believe, having worked my life in government, that there's absolutely no reason that we can't be as dynamic as the Googles, the startups, the Zyngas, the companies I've never even heard of that are doing amazing things. And I have that faith in the people that work for the city, but I think politicians get in the way. Yesterday I went to a gathering of 60 or 80 CPAs. Maybe some of my fellow candidates read the room and felt that people were kind of negative, but I felt the speeches were incredibly negative. They were very critical about the schools were bad, Muni is bad. You know what? Anybody can say that. I think that that is so politically expedient to be critical, particularly of services in areas that you've had virtually no involvement. What's courageous is standing up and believing that government can be for the good, and that the people that work for government, they don't go to work just to get a paycheck. They're like any of us. You go to work for an aspirational basis. It's hopefully something you want to do, you want to be good at, and if you're a public servant, you want to help people. So I should be uplifting those people that work for government, but at the same time accessible enough to ensure that those people who feel like the services aren't being well provided have redress. I ran the city's complaint department, which was called the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, for 5.5 years. And it was a life-changing experience for me. So you think about it, I went to Berkeley and then I went to work in Washington for Shirley Chisholm, who was the first African-American woman in Congress. I stayed on the Hill for 10 years. I worked in Los Angeles with county government developing the Metro Rail system. came here, worked for a Board of Supervisors aide, and as I joke, I kind of went down the food chain because I wound up working for Willie Brown as Director of Neighborhood Services. It was kind of actually a default position. I started out with him, we didn't really know one another, and none of the young people that came out of Mayor Brown's 95 campaign wanted to sort the mail. So at the age of 40, I sorted Willie Brown's mail for 3 months, and then he put me in this office. And so everybody wanted to meet with Willie Brown. And so I kind of talked to him about, what if we just gave out at 6 a.m. one day a month 30 10-minute appointments with you, and then people could come see you. And the first time we hadn't actually thought through the notion of giving out tickets. We did it on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend in 1996, and 150 people showed up at City Hall on a Saturday morning at 7 a.m. It was crazy, and obviously it was ridiculous to have the 30th person wait, through the first 29 appointments, and we figured it out, and it became a program that was submitted for a Kennedy School Excellence in Government Award, and it was just as low-tech as you can imagine, but it was an amazing experience to have people be able to directly petition their government. One of the stories I like to tell was about a woman, an East Indian woman, and she came in to see the mayor, and she started telling him that her husband, from whom she was separated, that he owned an SRO in the Tenderloin, and that she owned a building where there was an Indian restaurant on Bryant and 16th. And because her husband had had some issues in terms of building inspection and code violations, she was having some drama around getting a beer and wine license to make her restaurant more viable. So she went to the permit officer at Mission Police Station, and the permit officer said, you know what, you give me $6,000, I will take that money and I will get you the best permit consultant, and we'll make sure that they work with ABC, and we kind of finesse what you need to have done. She delivered that envelope with $6,000 in it, and then she couldn't get this gentleman back on the phone. So here she walked in the mayor's office and said, yeah, I put, we're sitting there going, you put $6,000 in cash in an envelope and you gave it to a police officer and he put it in his desk drawer and did this stuff. And 2 minutes later, Willie Brown called the then chief of police, Fred Lau. He came down, took a statement from her, and as of Monday, somebody was not doing what they were doing. So that's a low-tech approach to things, but I would bring that program back and I would televise it. I would give every person who has an appointment the opportunity, because for some people the issues are deeply personal, but I would give everybody an opportunity. People loved hearing Mayor Brown talk about those stories, and I think it is great that people can bring issues to you in that manner. As the mayor, I intend to have my calendar available on the web every day. I intend to be very active in the things that I do, and also to make it possible for more supervisors to do that. When you go to the city's website, it always seems to be like mayor, 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 and then the supervisors are kind of down there. But I think that Ed Lee has shown us that collaboration works, and I would like to enable the supervisors to more robustly be able to have the public understand what they're doing, what their priorities are, what are they working on, where are they, where can people connect and engage with them. Right now our city departments are about to embark upon an expansion of public access to commission meetings. So virtually all the commission meetings that are not currently televised, and some pretty significant ones like the health department, for example, is not televised, that those are going to be available on an audio basis, on a real-time, on-demand basis. I would commit to you as mayor that I think all of our commissions should be at least webcast, if not run on Channel 26. I think that that level of accessibility is extremely important. One of the things that I think needs to happen is also around our city commissioners. Oftentimes you see people are picked for commissions and you're looking for a reflection of the diversity of the city, and so people are picked that may be from the labor community, may be from an ethnic community, may be a gender balance that you're looking for, and all of that is appropriate. But I'd like to involve the Public Policy School at San Francisco State in sort of across-the-board training for our commissioners. looking at issues around transparency in government, not simply what the city attorney provides, which is like a no list of the things that you can't do, but a more robust way of looking at these issues and how positively you can be a more accessible commissioner, someone that's more engaged, because you definitely have commissioners that the public views as very responsive, people who will go out, see a situation, be open to people, and then there's some that come to the meetings, cast their votes, and you're not really sure what information they've gathered or what is it that's motivating a decision. And also looking at human resources issues, media training so that you're responsive when the public comes to talk to you. So, and the other thing is when you talk about government 2.0, I mean, I've got to figure we're at 5.0 and growing. There's nothing static about ability to be open to government, but what it is being responsive to the public and to advances in technology, because it's going to almost happen on a real-time basis. I worked in Congress for a great congresswoman where we were thrilled to get a Wang machine where you had cassette tapes, and it was amazing that you could put somebody's name and address on one tape and a letter on another, and you could answer hundreds of letters. I was there when Willie Brown got an email address, and I was his Ann Landers. I was the person that got Damayor, D-A-M-A-Y-O-R at ci.sf.ca.us, and I would answer all of his emails. I mean, it was surprising to me that Mayor Newsom, as someone who is so entrepreneurial and technologically oriented, he didn't really have a publicly accessible email address that really was about him. I mean, you got a form letter. For better or worse, I've always answered my own email, and for those of you that have been in room 200, under any mayor that I've worked under, that room looks pretty funereal to me, and I would love to see boards on the wall that are saying, okay, we've gotten 50 emails today about off-leash dogs and GGNRA. We've gotten 40 emails about an affordable housing amendment. And I think that that creates an excitement. I want people working in the reception area of the mayor's office that are solving people's problems and make it work. I mean, remember, this is the office that I ran, and I think it's extremely exciting. But you know, I'm incredibly open to these things because I'm enormously fallible. I mean, one of the great things about being a gay politician is your constituents really tell you what they think about you. So I pretty much had everything said about me, and I'm cool with it. What I want to start with is I'm relaunching my website in the next couple of weeks as things really pick up in June and people start to focus. And I'm going to have a section where I'm going to ask people to give me their ideas. I think that that would be a great thing for a mayor to do, would be to have an open door where people can continually suggest the things that would enable them to have trust in government. One of the things recently was someone said to me, "Why should I trust you?" And I said, well, I don't necessarily think you should. I'm a believer that you build through small steps that you take and you earn somebody's trust. You earn somebody's confidence. I wouldn't expect anyone, I wouldn't expect you to look at me and believe on face value the things that I say to you. But I hope that I have the opportunity to build upon smaller successes to bigger successes to hopefully a relationship where we have trust, and that would be my responsibility as mayor. I've only represented 1/11 of the electorate, even though I serve as a supervisor for the entire city. So in many ways I am being introduced to a larger community of people in San Francisco, and we have a lot of language issues. This is a town of immigrants, and the ability to conduct business in a meaningful way that respects that there are people that speak another language at home, and virtually half of the households in San Francisco speak a language other than English at home, I think is an extremely important role and responsibility. I feel very strongly about immigrant issues. My mother came to America during World War II. I never met anyone in her family. They all died or escaped to Israel and died soon thereafter, or got to Latin America. I never met anyone. My mom raised me from the time I was 5 by myself. I can remember when she would have to go every year to register as an alien at the post office, and it was a stark reminder to me that I was a citizen and my mom was not. And she was the only person in this world that was related to me that I knew of that was in my life. And so I can tell you that being a sanctuary city is not something you just put on a t-shirt or a sticker and are proud of. It's something you've got to work at. We have to take a stand. Right now we're in the 21st century, and I would tell you that in terms of the political movements of our time, I see them as predominantly threefold. It's about LGBT rights, it's about immigrant rights, and it's about the attacks that are taking place on public employees and people in unions. And we face very much the same enemies that either want to prevent us from having equality, prevent us from having the dignity of being human beings, or prevent us from having the rights that we've enjoyed in a country that respects the right of people to organize and have labor representation. And so I feel it's very important that we focus very much on individuals who are immigrants and having access to information. Let's just take an example. Our former district attorney sent a letter out in a great cause around truancy. Both Mayor Newsom, the district attorney Kamala Harris were very active about the impact of truancy. I chaired the City and School District Committee in a more low-key way. We were working behind the scenes to achieve the new truancy center. But in a way that I think seems good to the public, letters were sent to all of the households with public school children in them to say, these are your responsibilities, and if you don't do these things, we'll prosecute you. If you're not documented, I think that that's a letter that is much scarier than it'll be for me when my child enters public kindergarten this August. And I think that we do have to think about that in everything that we do, that maybe it would have been more wise to send that letter to families where there had been issues before. I mean, it's clear, the law is the law. You can enforce the law, but I think that you have to be sensitive. I like to say I have fun as I move along, so I'd like to just tell a story about openness in government. As you know, the Armory and the Mission had lied fallow for many years. There'd just been proposals to have filming done there, then there was proposals to maybe put condos there, then it was going to be high-tech businesses, then it was going to be, I don't know, internet farms or whatever they had those things, servers or whatever they were going to put in there, and none of this stuff kind of happened. And people fought in the neighborhood, sort of the more progressive folk fought the more moderate business folk, and nothing happened. And then lo and behold, a guy named Peter Ackworth went in from kink.com, he snapped up the Armory. And everybody was upset. The left was upset, the moderates, to businessy types were upset. And Peter Ackworth asked if he could come see me. And I said, sure. So he walked in my office, and it was kind of guerrilla style, and he had a camera, and he had some folks that worked with him, and they sat down and talked to me. And I looked at him and I said, I don't have an issue with it. I'm cool with kink.com. I don't have a problem with it, and I kind of think it's kind of a great lesson for people that in a town like San Francisco, which is very process-oriented, if you stop and stop and stop things and don't come up with something positive to do as a consensus or a compromise or move forward or a better idea, you know what? Sometimes you don't control the agenda. And I went up that night on kink.com, and I was the only elected official that was willing to meet with them. Maybe it's because I'm gay and I'm not afraid of sex. Sex and politics, I guess, are a difficult mix. Certainly for the former governor this week, it was a difficult mix for him. And I don't say that to be mean to him, because I think people's personal lives are their personal lives, and I feel for the kid that he had and so forth. But I just say, like, I'm a gay man. It's different. I'm not afraid. I think sex is great. I think it's a healthy part of people's lives. And I think if the more open you are about expressing yourself, probably the less bad things are going to happen in your life. And so, but I feel proud of it, and I hope some of your folks will go to kink.com. I hope I haven't been buried too far behind some of the, some of the other entertainment that they have available. But it's a pretty cool thing. They have community events there now. They have a foundation that they've set up to do things there, and so I feel like my record has been pretty good about being open and recognizing that in this non-traditional town, we have the ability to set the standard and be the example for others to follow.